Welcome. Thank you so much for coming to our Tidy Tutor University orientation. This is something that I like to do because I have found that lots of people have questions, and also I take online courses also, and I would love to have something like this available for me. Sometimes I have questions or some things that aren't very clear to me, and so that this would make me happy. So I know it would make you happy because each time I have a course, there are usually the same kind of questions that come up. And then also, I think it's just nice that we get to touch base and that I could kind of share some of the 2020 that I had since I've been doing this, and you can just get a lot out of it and be able to start with a really good start. Now, something that's really important is showing up. Show up for the class. I want you to feel like it's live, even though it's not. One of the things that's very difficult about taking an online course is that you could do it anytime. And you know what happens if you have that attitude, a whole week will go by and you hadn't done it yet. So I want you, one, to realize that you really aren't alone. You may be taking it by yourself, but you're not alone. There are others taking it too on their own timetable, but definitely in the same week, okay? I also want you to set time aside for it. Give yourself a day that you're saying, this is what I am going to commit to. Every Tuesday evening at 7, I'm going to just act like I have a class to go to. And either you shut yourself in your bedroom and you tell everybody in the house, if you live with anyone, mommy is taking a course and it's online, so I am not to be disturbed for a full hour in my bedroom. Or if you know better and you think that it might not work, I'm going to go out to the library or to a local coffee shop and do a Wi-Fi thing, then you can do that too, all right? Another thing that is important is to commit to it as if it is real time. This way, if anything else comes up, you can absolutely say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm taking a class. You are taking a class, okay? You've paid for this. If this was something that was live in an adult school that you were going to and you missed one of the classes, that would be it. Days aren't recorded. So take it in that kind of commitment level, all right? That you need to show up for this class, and you're showing up every Tuesday night at 7, and make all the arrangements so that could happen. A babysitter, or let your job know I have to leave the house. I have to leave work by this time every Tuesday. Tell people that you live with, this is what I'm doing on this day, and then you commit to it yourself. So if anybody calls you and asks you something, you have to say no, you have a class to go to. All right, real important. Now I want to talk about Tidy Tutor University, how to get in, how to navigate, and what to do first. So I'm going to show you, I know that you may know this, but at the same time, if you don't, it really can come in handy. So this is tidytutor.com, the tidytutor.com, my website. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, this is one way you can get into the course. In this blue little band here and this burgundy little strip here, this is Tidy Tutor University, and this is Tidy Tutor Insiders. Now, when you enroll in Tidy Tutor University, you get Tidy Tutor Insiders as a bonus. I do that because I want to guarantee your success. And the more help you get, the better off you're going to be. But just because you have all of these bells and whistles doesn't mean that this isn't the most important thing to concentrate on. This is your course, okay? Your course is Tidy Tutor University, and one session builds on the next. Now, if you just signed up, then you get session 1, and then a week later, you get session 2. A week after that, you get session 3, and so on, and then session 4. After you have gotten all of the sessions, then they're all together in, I have to log in. All right, let's see. I hope I remember my login. Okay. Now you're not going to see this. I see this because it's my, the way I work it in the website world. Okay, so if you have enrolled in Tidy Tutor University and you get them 1 week at a time, once all 4 weeks have gone through, then you will have each session to watch as often as you want, as many times as you want, or you can go over it any time during the year or forever. You have this at your disposal always, Tidy Tutor University. Now, inside of each session, this is session 1, and you practice one session for a full week. Each one builds on the next. I cannot stress enough, do not jump from here to session 4 thinking that you can really cut to the chase. It doesn't work that way. It really is meant to be a progressive class. You will fall completely on your face if you don't do it in order. So now here's session 1, and they're all broken up in pieces. They're in order, and it's about an hour long. Each class has what I have a review on it, and the review is about 30 minutes worth of instruction that kind of just is a synopsis of each session. So in session 1, you have all of session 1, and then you have a review of session 1, and the same thing with session 2, 3, and 4. Now, one thing that this is really good for is if you take the class, say, on a Tuesday night, and then Friday comes along, it's a nice time to listen to the review of session 1. It's only half an hour, so it's half the amount of time. And it is kind of like it hits on the high points. It goes over some things that need to be kind of like gone over a little bit more, that kind of thing. So you might like this, okay? And then for each class, I have bonus videos. Like this happens to be a video that is Do It Now and the No Excuse Rule, which is a coffee talk that I did. But I know that it really goes well with this session, so I added it here. And each session has notes. So before you do anything, you want to take Tidy Tutor University, okay? Okay. Now this is Tidy Tutor Insiders. Tidy Tutor Insiders, it has everything in it. So if you go to the tidytutor.com and you log in from one of these down here, it's just going to take you to the page that this particular thing is on. If you go to register for Coffee Talk, it will just take you there to register for Coffee Talk. If you go to ttinsiders.com, you will have everything at your disposal on that page, okay? This is where our course lives and where our Insiders Club lives. Now, if you're going to do anything in here, that's fabulous. There's lots of great stuff in here, but use it as like an enhancement to the course, not instead of, okay? All right, so I think I covered all of that. This is our exclusive Facebook group. You need to friend request me. So if you click on that, it'll take you to my home page or my regular page, my personal page. You have to friend request me. Once you friend request me, then you let me know, you private message me and tell me that you need to get into our private Facebook group, and then I'll get you in. All right, so that's how that works. If anybody has any questions about anything, please feel free to ask. And another thing that we're doing here as well is anybody that is not a member of TTU, that you were welcome to join us today. And if this is something that you realize will help you in your life, then you can enroll in Tidy Tutor University. And that was another reason why I invited people outside of our group, is because there might be some people that are considering it, but they just want to know a little bit more. And I think this is a great way to find out about a little bit more. Okay, so now here's something I'd like to talk about, which is remember that we forget pain. And remember what brought you here. Now, the reason you have to remember that we forget pain is because if we don't realize how bad things were, if we forget how bad things were, it's very easy to go back to the same behaviors that got us there to begin with. Now, this happens a lot of times with getting organized, because you will find out that very shortly things get really good. And when they do, you will start to say, I don't have to get up early anymore. Why do I have to do that? Everything is really pretty good. I don't think everything was as bad as I thought it was. I think I was exaggerating. This is really, I don't need to do all of this. I'm telling you that is going to happen. So what you have to do is, when it does happen, you need to remember what I'm saying now, because it will really allow you to step over a hole that is waiting for you and say, oh no, I remember Kathy told me about this hole. I'm stepping right over you. And I am not going to have this false sense of security where I'm going to think that I'm 3 weeks into a program and something that my whole life has been dealing with, that now suddenly I'm okay. It's going to take some time, all right? It doesn't happen overnight. It feels so good though, and I promise you this, that it does happen quickly. If you follow the system, before you know it, there's so many changes. But you have to remember what I said about, we forget pain, and you have to remember what brought you here. Because if you don't continue to remember what brought you here, you really will start to slack in the things that's going to keep you where you want to be, which is organized and peaceful and on top of your game. Okay? So there's that. Another thing I want to talk about is, you have to begin yourself, okay? Before we can get anybody on board in our homes, we've got to do it ourselves first. It will help you to feel empowered. It will help you to know what to tell somebody to do. And it will also motivate them to actually do something, because no matter what we say, they're not going to believe us. I'm sure there's been lots of times when we said we're going to clean the house and this time it's going to stay that way. And, maybe it lasted a couple days and that was that. And the reason for that is because we didn't have a plan, we didn't have a system, and we didn't know really what we were doing ourselves. So we can't expect to get anybody else involved when we don't know what we're doing. So just be confident that when you begin yourself, that you will know what to tell people, how to delegate, and to feel confident that a plan is going to go into action. Okay? So begin yourself first before you grab anybody to get in on the game plan. Now, when the house is a wreck, ignoring it as you're working TTU, that's something that has to happen. Okay? And it's going to feel unusual. It's going to feel wrong even, that the house is such a wreck and you're not doing things about it. Now, you weren't doing things about it before, but you thought you were, right? We spin our wheels really pretty good. We do a lot of nothing, better than anybody else I've ever seen. We'll jump from one thing to the next, and we will work so hard all day and get nothing done. And so we're used to doing that, and we're used to being, a little bit in crisis mode and feeling like we've got to get this done. And a lot of times what people say to me is, as soon as I get the house cleaned up, I'm going to start TTU. And I'm telling you, you never will. It doesn't work. So just get that right out of your head right now, okay? You're not going to get the house cleaned up and start Tidy Tutor University. It won't happen. So just do the plan the way the plan is dictated to do. You're going to have a morning routine. You're going to have an evening routine. You're going to have something that you do every day with laundry and dishes. And so I'm saying that it's okay to, do a couple of things as you're going through the house, but it has to be in the plan. And by that, what I mean is, like, let's say you're in the bedroom and you're going to get up, you're going to make the bed. Now, the bedroom might be a complete, bomb hit it. Make the bed, okay? Just do it. Make the bed. So you're going to make the bed. You're going to go into the bathroom. The bathroom might be a complete disaster. You're still going to do a bathroom swish. You're going to wipe out the tub. You're going to swish around in the toilet. You're going to, spritz the sink and the mirror, and you're going to do that. But another thing that you're going to do too is you're going to adhere to the habits, which is pick up your towel, hang it on a hook, whatever it is that you had on, put it in the hamper or back where it belongs, in a drawer in a closet. Nothing gets hung on chairs or any kind of equipment anymore that you might have hanging around. Everything gets put away. So now it might feel like, well, this is ridiculous, but it's not ridiculous. And as you go through, you can pick up a couple of things and walk out of the room with some things. Like if you have a coffee cup that's on the dresser, you can leave with that coffee cup. If you had some garbage in your room that you had to throw away, you could gather some of that garbage as you leave. So that kind of thing could be done, but you're not going to clean the house. You're going to just go along with the program. And when you start thinking, like, when you start thinking, oh, I can't do this. Look at all of that has to be done. Oh my God. Then I want you to just pull yourself back and tell yourself, wait a minute, there is a schedule for that. I will get to it. I'm not neglecting it. I'm just doing it when it's time. All right. So there's that. Now I'd like to talk about the Power of 15, Mississippi's, and nothing is having any babies. Okay, so first the Power of 15. There is so much that we can do in just 15 minutes. You have no idea. If you haven't done this before, then you're going to be like, holy mackerel. When the timer hits about like 4 or 5 minutes, you start to think something happened to the timer. When it goes to 8, 9 minutes, you think that the timer, stopped or something. And then you look at it and you're like, oh my God, it's only been 8 minutes. So really, if all you have is 15 minutes at a time, you can do it. You can do this, all right? If all you have is 15 minutes a day, you could do this, all right? So don't see little blocks of time as useless. And also think about little pockets of time that you could use. Like, are you waiting to get into the bathroom? Well, what can you do while you're waiting to get into the bathroom? Are you booting up your computer? How much could you get done of something while you're booting up the computer? Can you get the load of laundry in the dryer, in the washer during that time? What about how many dishes can you do while the coffee's coming down? See what I mean? There's all little things that we kind of sit around and wait for that we can use to push us forward and to get us to another place. Now, Mississippi's is about counting. I want you to start to count when you're in a room and you're leaving it. Now, it's going to feel, remember, like I said, it's going to feel a little weird that maybe you have a disaster of a counter in your kitchen and you just made some tea and now you're going to wash your cup, you're going to wipe that spot that you had with some milk that spilled, you're going to put the milk away. If you made a sandwich, you're going to put away everything, put the wrappers away, put the saran wrap or whatever it was that you used, wash the fork, wash the knife, put the mayonnaise back in the refrigerator, and the whole rest of the kitchen is a wrap. It doesn't matter. What we're doing is, one, we're making sure that nothing's having any more babies, all right? That nothing can multiply. Everything will have to just stay exactly as it is if we start to maintain some habits that we've got to continue with. And another thing about that is that we're practicing. We're building new habits to break the old ones. And the thing with the Mississippi is, I want you to count because we have a warped perception of time and we think everything takes so long. So every single time you're about to leave a room, stop yourself like you're a record. You ever hear the way records sound when, you pull them off with the needle? It's like a screechy sound. Just hear that before you step out of that room. Turn around and say, what didn't I take care of? And then take care of it. And when you do, I want you to count. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. I can almost guarantee you that before you get to 10 Mississippi, which is 10 seconds, you would have done all that you needed to do in that room. We tend to overestimate all of that. And I want you to continually tell yourself that every single person in the world who is organizationally gifted has every scenario that you could ever have happening in their lives, and yet they manage to clean up after themselves, even though they have so much going on. They have a job, they have little kids, they've got a husband, maybe they're sick, maybe they've got a mother they've got to drive around. All kinds of scenarios that are going on in the world for people. Yet some people live in a mess and some people don't. The whole difference is just in habits. It's in attitude. So don't think you can't, because you can. It's not as long as you think. Okay? Now, dejunking and when to clean. We're going to dejunk. Before we can do anything, we've got to dejunk the house before we can expect to really go anywhere with this. Our number one obstacle is too much stuff. So when we're working on the house, and you'll see this in session 2 that we do it in zones, we do specific sections of the house at specific times of the month. And when you're in a specific spot during, like if the third week of the month happens to be your kitchen, that's what you're doing that month, that week is your kitchen. You have a week's worth of kitchen stuff to do. And before you do any cleaning in that room, we dejunk it. We get rid of everything we don't love, we don't need, doesn't belong in that room anymore, that's broken, that we've outgrown. Whatever it is, we are dejunking. If we have 6 of something, we only need 1. How many blenders do you need? Okay? How many glasses do you need? You've got to see the excess of glasses and mugs and silverware and appliances. You have to see all of that excess as little thieves that steal all of your time, all of your joy, and all of your peace. When you bought them, you thought you needed them for some freaking reason. And then they came home and they became these little gremlins that are sabotaging your life. I want you to know that there's not going to be a time that the store runs out of glasses. They're not very expensive to begin with. So even if something tragic happens and you break every single glass in your cabinet, you can go and get some. It isn't really, they're not platinum. They're not made of platinum. These things are not diamond jeweled. All right. Now, that's something that we can get into at another time about, the excess of how much do you need a diamond jeweled something, and what would that mean to your life if now you have to take care of this thing that you've purchased that is so valuable. But that's not our topic for today. Our topic for today is just that we have too much stuff. Realize that before we clean anything, we dejunk it. After a room is dejunked, then we clean it. If you haven't cleaned your oven in 2 years, another month is not going to make a difference. So don't get crazy on yourself, okay? Because I know that we're closet perfectionists and we think if we're going to do something, we have to do it this way. And it really isn't true. It doesn't work. If it's worked so far, you'd be doing it and you wouldn't be here, right? Now, this is something that I do periodically. I don't do it now because I live alone. But when I didn't live alone, I would get the house together. And when you do this, it really is wonderful that everybody living with you gets on the bandwagon with you. And there's something we call the tagging game, and there's methods that we use so that the house does stay clear of clutter. But what happens is after a little while of living this nice little lifestyle, people tend to start to slack. And they think, oh, I could do that later. Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, everything's good. And you aren't as on top of your game anymore because everything seems so good. It's kind of like we're lulled into a complacent kind of attitude. And when that happens, This is what I do, and I do it immediately. And I'm telling you this, to do it immediately. Don't wait until you get so pissed off that you're doing all these dishes every day. And you're like, what the heck is going on? Wash a dish. Why can't you wash a dish? You're grown up here. Wash a dish. Don't get to that point. The second you see that things are starting to get where nobody cares anymore a little bit, do it immediately. Just do it immediately. So take my word for it that it's necessary. All right. And I put these notes up by the table where they're sitting so that they'll see them, right over the kitchen sink, right over where the stove is, and on a door when they have to leave the kitchen, so that it's very visible and they're definitely reminded. All right. It really helps. I want you to make sure that you take care of you. All right. I call us back burner babies. We always put ourselves on the back burner. Something that is in your system is a method of taking care of yourself. And you're going to see this and think it's not important. Like your bedtime routine, you get yourself in your pajamas, you wash your face, you moisturize, you do things that are good for you. You declare a bedtime and you tell everybody about it so that nobody's jerking you around every day and saying, oh, Ma, I forgot this. Oh, honey, I forgot all about that. You're not getting that from anybody anymore because you've declared it. You've told them, listen, my bedtime is 10 p.m. If you need something done, you better tell me by 9. Because if it's any time after that, I will not be able to do it. And then stick to your guns. Because once you say no, they are going to remember. And the next time, they're going to ask you early enough. All right? Because we're not supposed to be jerked around like a bull at the end of the paddle. If we respect ourselves, other people will respect us. Another thing about this, too, is we take care of ourselves really well for the outside world. We need to do that for our inside world, too. Everything that we work for on the outside is what we have on the inside. That's what we work for. So there's something psychological that happens to us when we recognize that this job is important, and we recognize it to the point where we take care of ourselves. We get up early enough. If you had a job to go to, would you get up 2 seconds before it was time to get in there, roll out of bed, and then walk in there with a nightgown on and your hair a mess, scratching your crotch? No, you wouldn't be scratching your crotch. I can't believe I said that. Anyway, but you wouldn't be doing that, right? You would take care of yourself and look good, and you would feel better, and you would walk into that job because somehow you know it's important. This is as important, and I'm telling you, it's even more important. Because if you won the lottery, you would quit your job in a second. You wouldn't quit home. Yet we don't take the time that we need to care for ourselves so that we can care for our home. It matters, okay? So when you get to your routines of your morning routine and your nighttime routine, I don't want you to see this as something that it really isn't necessary. I want you to see it as one of the most necessary things that you can do for yourself and for your quest to get your act together, okay? Now, this is something that I want to talk about, that we are not these people. We're not Martha Stewart. We're not Donna Reed. Donna Reed was a, icon of a perfect housewife. We're not these people. I want you to be true to who you are, and I want you to stop making comparisons. Don't compare yourself to anybody else anymore. It's like comparing apples to oranges. It isn't fair. An orange is wonderful just like it is, and an apple is wonderful just like it is. But if each one of these fruits looked at each other, one of them would feel like they weren't as good. Oh, look at how nice that apple would say to the orange. He could be squeezed into a glass and drank like a drink. Look at how beautifully colorful it is and how sparkly. The orange could say the same thing about an apple. Look at how crisp that is and how somebody feels like they're actually eating something when they bite into it. And when you cut it, it has a little star in the middle. It looks beautiful. And look at those seeds. The skin is gorgeous. And, you could just go on and on. Anybody can compare anybody to anybody and feel like there's something wrong with them. Now, in our case, it's pretty difficult because the world has bombarded us with feeling like there's something wrong with us. We've heard it from our mothers and fathers. We've heard it from our friends, and we've seen it on television, whether we like to believe it or not. It is perpetuated that there's something wrong with somebody that is late all the time or just can't seem to keep the house clean. So stop making comparisons. I'm going to give you one example of a comparison that I made many years ago, and it took me 17 years to learn what I'm teaching you now. I was already organized. I was about 15 months or maybe 2 years into being organized. If you took session 1, you know that I was in a car accident, and it was 2 years after that it happened, and my house was in order. Everything was wonderful. When people had to come to take care of things, there was no embarrassment for anybody. Everybody knew where the shoes were, where their coats were, where the clothes were. They had to pack things up for their kids. It was lovely. What could have been very devastating turned out to be not as devastating because the house was in order. Then I came home. Everything was in place. Everybody had a system. And the house didn't get a wreck because I was in a hospital bed and then in a wheelchair and couldn't walk. The house didn't stay a mess. Remember, we're not a mess because of our circumstances. We're a mess because of our habits. But this is what happened to me back then. I was feeling bad about myself because I wasn't as good as my friends. I had a few friends that lived in the community who were stay-at-home moms, and their houses were perfect and everything was so together. They always had their laundry done. They were always together. Everything was always so perfect. And it really wasn't like that at my house. It was good, and now looking back, it was freaking good, all right? But the way I saw it wasn't good enough. I wasn't like them. I had a few loads of laundry every day to do in the basement. There was like 3 baskets of laundry down there, almost always. The house wasn't always put together. Sometimes, there would be toys on the floor. Sometimes, my bed wasn't made. Sometimes it was, if somebody would have just dropped in, I would have had to get up and put some things away, all right? It was 15 minutes from company. And this is the thing. There's a couple of things. One, I shouldn't have been comparing myself to those people because there was no comparison. I had 4 kids under the age of 10. I was going to college full time, and I had 2 part-time jobs. Why would I ever think that I needed to compare myself to somebody that stayed home with 2 little kids and didn't have any other responsibilities? And then on top of that, so what? Let's say I was the stay-at-home mom just like them, and that's the state of my house. It's okay. We don't have to be who we're not. We don't have to care about what other people care about. My sister Maria one time busted my chops because I had a basket of shoes on my porch. I've talked about this before. And she came in and she said, "Oh, let me help you with those." And this is when I realized that, I don't have to have your standard of living. I could have my own. So when she said, "Let me help you with that," I said, "Help me with what?" He said, "Well, she said, the basket of shoes, we can, let's do something with them." I said, "Maria, they're fine just like they are." I had 8 people living with me. So that's 16 pair of shoes. Everybody had 2 pair of shoes. That's 32 pair of shoes, right? Then you have a couple of friends over, and now there's more shoes. You don't have a place for those shoes. Even just shoes make a house look like a disaster. So what I did worked for me. It was easy. If I would have done what she wanted to do, it would have looked good for 5 seconds. And then after that, it would have been a total disaster because we wouldn't have done it. We wouldn't have taken our shoes off and gently and gingerly placed them on shoe trees. It wouldn't have happened. But we would have taken them off and tossed them in a basket. That worked for me. And because I was at a place where I didn't feel like I had to be somebody else. It was real easy for me to say, no, Ray, this is great. This is the way I do it. And she left me alone. And you know what? If she didn't leave me alone, I wouldn't care anyway. Mind your freaking business. You don't pay my bills. All right. So I want you to just embrace who you are. All right. Do things the way you do them. Realize how you tick. The reason I have the book up there, 7 Habits for Highly Successful People, Effective People, is because it was written by an organizationally gifted person. Most of these books are. And there's a lot of holes in it for people like you and me. We tend to feel like there's something wrong with us on top of the fact of everything else because we are always reaching for books like these or magazines that we see that seem so inspiring and, oh, I can do this. And then we get it and we're like, oh my God, I can't do this. And what are they talking about? Prioritize. Isn't everything a priority? How do I know it's a priority? Because they're speaking to somebody else. And then we think, oh my God, there must be something wrong with me. I don't even know what they're talking about. I want you to stop that, all right? I want you to stop that right now. Just work the program. Realize you're wonderful just like you are. Don't compare yourself to anybody. And be happy with how things go. Don't feel like you need to be Mrs. Perfect or Mr. Perfect. All right, you don't. We do things differently than other people do, and we have to realize that it's okay. It's fine even. It's even better. Because you know the way we tick, which is, we start something with full gusto, and then by the time it's halfway done, we don't want to do it anymore. That we know that we really love to begin projects and we hate to finish them. We have to figure out how can we do things so that it will get finished. What motivates me to finish a job? Somebody that's organizationally gifted, just the fact that it has to be done is enough motivation for them. So what I do, and for a long, long time, I did this in the closet. I would never let anybody see me do it. Now I do it openly, and I don't give a crap what you think. I'll paint 2 walls. The first wall will be the wall with the windows. And then by the time I'm done with the second wall, which is usually the time that we want to quit and we don't want to do it anymore, so maybe we'll wrap up our paintbrush in a plastic bag and put the lids back on the paint. Not very good, actually, but, so that if it fell over, it would probably spill. And then we'd have to get new brushes tomorrow because they would get all dried up and be, oh, I really have to finish that job. What I do is by the time I'm done with the second wall, the first wall is dry where the window is, and I can hang the curtains. And that gives me motivation and makes it fun again. So now I want to finish the room because it's starting to look really cute the way I wanted it to look. Then I do the third wall, and if I'm still kind of getting like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, well, the second wall is now dry enough that I could clean the baseboards and sweep the floor there or vacuum the floor. And now cleaning suddenly is fun because what this means is that now I can hang the pictures, and now I can put the piece of furniture up against that wall. And then before you know it, I'm done with a room that normally would have taken me weeks to complete or maybe never have completed because I decided to not give a crap about what anybody thinks. Susie Q thinks. Think what you want. This is what works for me. And then, we just move on and we move on successfully. All right, now this is a weekly plan. We have these days of the week that we're going to plug into our week. On one day, it's going to be our free day. On another day, it'll be our desk day. On another day, it'll be a once over day. If you're not aware of what these are yet, you will be. And we have to concentrate on these days during the week. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't do our routines, okay? Our routines are done always, even if it's a free day. If you have a free day, you're still going to get up and shower, right? So there's stuff you have to do. You're still going to make your bed. You're still going to pick up your towel and hang it and get dressed and take your clothes off and put them where they belong, not on a chair or, on the floor. You still have dishes that have to be done. You still have to clean up after yourself. So the only thing you're not going to do on a free day is, dejunking and extra stuff. So just remember that no matter what day you've got going on, your routine always has to happen. And that when I say something is, say, a desk day, it doesn't mean that all day is spent on paperwork or on whatever has to be an administrative kind of office-ish kind of thing. It just means that that day is designated for that specific job. So this way, you actually do it. So if you have anything that comes up, you could say, no, I can't do that. It's my desk day. But if I get it done, or when I get it done, then I'll consider it. And then you move on to do something else, but not until the designated something is done. Sometimes it'll take 15 minutes. Sometimes it'll take an hour. Remember, when you're first getting started, things are going to take longer than they did. Well, than they will later. And you might feel like, oh my God, this sucks. And in the beginning, it might suck a little bit because it's harder. You know, maybe you haven't gotten to that room in a long, long time. Maybe you haven't dusted ever. You know, maybe that living room hasn't been dusted in a year. Well, you know, it's going to take a lot longer to do baseboards and cobwebs and stuff like that and ledges when you haven't dusted in a year. But just know that it's just the way it is in the whole world. If you're physically fit and you're trying to get physically fit, in the very beginning, you're out of breath much faster. It hurts a lot more. You're more tired. You don't like it. And then you stick to it. And after a little while, not only does it become enjoyable, but it becomes easier. And then you like it. All right. Now, I don't know if we're ever going to really like cleaning up the house. I don't think that we're ever going to like it. But we will get to a point where it isn't a drudge anymore. It doesn't suck our energy, and it gets done easy. Okay? It just isn't going to happen right now, right? You didn't get in the mess overnight. You're not going to get out of it overnight. Now, I'm going to talk about waking up a half an hour before we have to. This is something that is so important. I know that when you're laying in bed, you think that that half hour is the most important thing in the world and you don't want to do it. I'm telling you, it will change your life. You need to do this, okay? Think of yourself as an executive at home. I don't care what kind of responsibility you have outside of your house. I don't care what CEO you are of what freaking company. Home is something that has to be taken care of no matter what the heck you do. If you have outside help, you still need to be the executive at home. You still need to know how to delegate and not be somebody that is stashing and dashing everything in the house so that the cleaning lady can come and get something done just so that you can undo it as soon as she leaves. Yeah, the floors might be clean, but you're living in a disaster. So please make sure that you get up a half an hour before you actually have to. It's so important and you'll be so happy you did. The nighttime routine is something that I want you to make sure that you do right as soon as you wake up. I know that sounds a little crazy, but you can think about what you have to do for tomorrow all day long, and it'll make such a difference in your evening. Now, another thing is you don't want to do this right before you're going to crash and burn. You know your tolerance level. And if right after dinner you're kind of done, and it's all you can do to get the dishes done and the kitchen cleaned up, then you know that you're going to have to start that nighttime routine like as soon as you get home from work or as soon as your work day ends at home, and get that stuff going on. If you happen to be at the computer and you see that you're going to need directions for somewhere, then make sure you get that in your planner right now. Take care of it right now. Print out the directions, get it on there if you need to glance at them so that we're not being jerked around by our GPS, so that we can really be on top of things. If you need to get somebody from an airport or something like that, pick somebody up at a train station, then as soon as you see it, take care of it right then. Okay, what time do I have to get them? Where do I have to meet them? What's their phone number so that I make sure that I have it on me? Put it all down. Now that's taken care of already. And maybe it's only the afternoon, but part of your nighttime routine is done now because you have to make sure that you're prepared for tomorrow, and that's part of it. All right? All right, now, so something called the broken window theory. This is a This is something that they did in New York. They found out in New York when they were trying to clean it up. They were trying to improve it. And it used to be really an unsafe city. It's one of the most safest cities in the world now. And well, or at least in the country now. And so what somebody did was, I forgot his name, but it was a man who was taking care of the subways. And the first thing he said we're going to do is clean up all of the graffiti and clean all the broken glass. And we're going to be really, really diligent about making sure that there's no littering. There's no littering. Nobody's going to be peeing in a corner anywhere in our subways or anywhere. And, people were saying to him, everything is such a wreck, and the subways themselves need to be redone. Why are you wasting your time on this? And he was very adamant that if I don't waste my time on this, everything that we do is going to be undone. And he was completely right. There's something that happens when you see something that looks like nobody cares, you don't either. So if this happens in the world outside, and remember, these are professional people. I'm not saying that all of them were professional people, but these were like, mothers, fathers, people who worked in banks, right? There's all kinds of people that were going around there just littering and not caring, where they would never have done that before. But because there's broken windows, and because there's graffiti, and because the cops aren't enforcing any rules or anything, everybody feels like they don't care. So you have got to really get this at home, because you're the one that matters. I know that you say all the time to yourself, why do I have to? I don't have to do that now. I don't have to clean up after myself. I'm the one that cleans up everything anyway. That, of course, is true. But what's happening is you're fixing yourself in a perpetual state of disaster, because when you don't care, nobody else does either. So if you want to see a level of concern for where you live and a level of pride for it, it has to start with you. And when you start to do that, they will too. All right. So that's something that's real important. Now I'm going to talk about too much stuff and what we can learn from minimalists. Minimalists have found out that now, minimalists, I'm talking about people that were not a mess, that did not have disasters, had really, really good habits, and anybody could drop by anytime they wanted to. They were June Cleaver, all right? They were Martha Stewart. So they discovered that when they got rid of their excess, the stuff that they didn't need anymore, because they had shelving and garages filled with stuff, when they got rid of all of the stuff they didn't need, that they became happier and that their lives became more manageable. Now, you have to think about this, okay? If people that lived orderly lives could discover that just by having less stuff that they, just stored in places that they had in their drawers and in their cabinets and in their closets. Now, all of these things were orderly. They could just grab them. Nothing was spilling all over the place. If they can discover that that they had more time, more fulfillment, more joy, and more peace, and they were happier. That's the words that they use, that they were happier with less stuff. Then what do you think it'll do for us, right? Like, that's kind of like where it started me thinking, like, wow, like there really is something to this. If you work outside the house and you have children and you have that little teeny tiny window of time to get dinner, get them in bed, get them in the tub, get them washed for bed, get them ready for bed, get their homework done, everything that you have to do, get their lunches made, you have that little period of time. I'm telling you that if you are struggling with this like nobody's business, it is because you have too much stuff. When you go shopping, I want you to start seeing that not as an event, okay? I want you to start seeing it as a life sucker. Start seeing it as something that isn't something fun to do, but something that eventually does turn out to harm you, all right? So So I think that's that as far as that's concerned, that I want you to just start to look at your stuff in a different way, all right? And even if you have room for it, but you don't need it and you don't use it, I want you to please rethink keeping it, all right? Remember that if you hold on to things, it means that your hands are clenched. And if your hands are clenched, you cannot receive anything. You can only receive when they're open, all right? Okay, something else I want to talk about is that the game has changed and we need to stop trying to live by the same rules. It's nothing like it used to be. This is an image of something that was very typical back in the 50s and for generations before that. We had each other. Women had each other. Now, I don't care if you're a stay-at-home dad, okay? It doesn't matter if you are a man that stays home. Something that happened was people who were domestic, they got trained. People that stayed at home and took care of family and took care of home. There was a training period. There was help even. And it started when you were very young and you watched maybe your sister get help. And then you became that person who got help. And maybe your aunt came and your mother came, your older sister came. It was a community of women that helped each other and that trained each other. Another thing that's changed so much since then is stuff. We don't have nearly, they didn't have nearly as much stuff as we do today. They didn't have disposable things. They didn't have to keep up with the Joneses like we do today. There was no such thing as designer anything. They didn't have names on the outside of their clothing unless it was a freebie that you got from the grocery store or the gas station. So we are accumulating more and more things and caring more and more about things, that it is such a different world. And us trying to do what they did, but live the life that is so different than they lived is kind of crazy. If you're living with, with responsibilities where you're taking care of the home, an outside job, or you're running your children all over the place. Remember, back then, most women didn't even have driver's licenses. Your kids got on a bike and took off for where they had to go. All right? So nothing is going to be like it was. And we're all trying so hard to have what that was. Just even the things like the China. And, when you register now to get married, we're still doing that. Nobody uses that stuff anymore. Yet we're still trying to adhere to a time that doesn't exist anymore. So I just want to encourage you to live an authentic life. Think about your life, how you live, and then live accordingly, all right? Break the mold. Another thing is, it's not about perfect. Please always remember this. It's about happy. Now, in the beginning, when you're taking Tidy Tutor University, you are going to take it to the letter. It is very important that you do it all, and you do it all exactly the way it's stipulated. The only things that would change might be is, say you work swing shift, or you work at night, or, there might be some things that are changed in your routine. But really, basically, everything has to be done to the letter, because you're not going to know what will work until you know what doesn't. Because right now, nothing's working. If it was, you wouldn't be here. And it's a really great template to go by so that you can, feel very confident in eventually tweaking it. All right? So really stick to it to the letter. And I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover for our orientation and our welcome. I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions or any comments. I'm going to read some right now. We are just almost at the hour mark, and that's what I expected this to be, about an hour, so we're pretty good. All right, Mary said, I need to sell my mom's house that is packed with 3 houses worth of stuff. My house is cluttered. I'm stressed about my mom and sister's failing health. Do I hire an estate sale company to go through it and sell, or try myself? We need to get the stuff out to sell it, or try to do it myself. Any advice? I say that that is really a great idea. There's people that do this. They just take a percentage. This is what they do. It is so worth it. I would absolutely do that. They're really professionals, and you probably will end up making more money getting their help than doing it yourself. They know how to price them. They know how to talk to people. They sit there with a little card table. People come in. They answer their questions. Of course, you could be there too, but I really, really think that's a great idea. I would do that. And then as far as anything that you feel really overly sentimental about or anything, just please remember this. Everybody has a shelf life. None of us live forever. We do always come to a point where we need to let go of a loved one. It's just the way life is. We need to be at that same place with our things too. Things are not people. And if we can let go of people because we just don't live forever, then we really can get rid of things too. Everything doesn't last forever. It's not meant to. Bless somebody else with it. If you have to also think about this, not you, but any of us, that there are lots of people in the world that live really, really orderly lives and don't have like a museum to their mother or grandmother at home. And you know that they loved their mother, they loved their grandmother, right? They loved them. They didn't love them less than you or me because we have all their crap. Of course not. So it's okay to let go of stuff that we don't love that belongs to somebody else. If we could tell our children, now, please don't be encumbered by all of my crap when I go. It's just stuff that I wanted to buy while I was here because I liked it. It isn't me. So, there's, and if you go in the coffee talks, you'll see a section for minimalism. There's some really profound ideas about our things and how important we think our things are. It really helped me to let go of certain things that I couldn't let go of. So there's that. I hope I've answered your question. I think I answered a lot more than you wanted me to. All right. Laura said, my kids are 5 and 7. How do I help them get rid of too many toys? Excuse me. Well, it depends on your kid. I know that some children are really, really attached to their stuff. I know Emily treated her stuffed animals like they were living things, even sometimes a rubber band. She called it Wormy. She would have, oh, no, don't step on Wormy. It's just training. That's all it is. You've got to just train them. I had it that right before Thanksgiving, right around Thanksgiving, we traditionally went around the house and took stuff away so that we could bless other children with it and prepare our house for Christmas time so that we could have room for more things. And, I just tried to teach them that there's children out in the world that don't have anything, and this is our chance to be able to give to them so that we can make room for God to give to us. And then also with Emily, because she was so attached to her things, it was just something that I had to do almost daily. And at a certain point, I made it that she couldn't have one thing come into the house without 3 things leaving because, she had too many stuffed animals. It was ridiculous. So that and then after a little while it just worked. You'll be able to do it. You just train them a little bit at a time. They'll feel how good it is. Teach them, talk to them. It'll work. You'll see. Okay, Rose said, loving TTU starting session 3 already changes. I can see. It's been my whole life, and I am so happy. I never thought it would happen. I have tears in my eyes when I'm reading that, Rose. God bless you, honey. I absolutely know how you feel, and I understand. And when I said in the beginning of this presentation, when I said that you're going to get so many things done so quickly, and you're going to see, oh my God, so much change so fast, I meant it, and you just reiterated it. It really does happen quickly. It's wonderful, isn't it? A lot of it is in our head. And then a lot of this just, we just did things in a way that was counterproductive to who we were. If you are not part of Tidy Tutor University and you want to be, then you just go to my website page, tidytutor.com, and just scroll and you'll see a spot where you can, here I can do this, let's see, the tidytutor.com. You go to there, scroll down, and see where it says Tidy Tutor University DIY Home Study Course, begin today. That's what you do. You just click on begin today, and there's two ways that you can get in. You can pay one time of $197, or you can do it $25 a month, so that it's a little bit easier. You get the same things. So it's just that if you're on, like, say the fifth payment and you cancel, then you don't get Tidy Tutor University anymore. Whereas if you go to the eighth payment, then Tidy Tutor University is yours forever. You see what I mean? All right. Okay. So that's that. I thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to hearing how you're doing. Please remember to Facebook friend request me so I can get you into our group, and private message me so I know to get you in there. If you have anything that you want to ask me privately, you could always email me, Kathy@thetidytutor.com. All right, so that's that. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. Thank you so much for being with me today. Take care and God bless.